Hey guys, Chris from ProvoBeast Audio Installation, and in today's video we're going to be doing a backup camera on this 2003 Jeep Liberty. Now in this install, we're going to show you how to mount the camera and get it all integrated to an existing aftermarket radio. Let's get started. Alright, so here we are at the bench. Now the parts that we're using for this install, the customer is wanting us to install this license plate mountable camera. It sits back behind the plate itself, and we will wire this to the aftermarket radio. Now, because the license plate is off center within the bumper area, it's not going to be a true center point view, but we can bend and adjust this to get as close to that as possible. Now, if you want a center kit, not one that sits off to the side on the license plate, there are kits that actually mount within the spare tire location that would be more centered on the vehicle. If you want to pick one of those up instead of something like this, we'll link different various ones that we've used on the channel in the past in the description below. So within this kit specifically has the camera itself. This camera will plug into the extension harness, and this harness essentially has a couple of wires hanging off. It has our video wire, so this is going to carry the signal from the camera to the aftermarket radio. So this is the video output. Has a little trigger wire on it as well. This could be used to trigger the radio to go in reverse, or it could also use to power the camera. It just depends on how your radio is wired. On the other end of the cable, this end here will actually plug into the camera. And then you have this harness here as well. Generally, this is meant to go to the reverse light itself, the positive and negative of the reverse light. You tap that in there. Now, alternatively, if your aftermarket radio and wiring harness already provides a reverse trigger, you can actually wire this to an accessory instead, which allows the camera to be on when the vehicle is on, and you can call upon the camera at any time besides just in reverse. So a couple of different ways you can wire it. If you want a good tutorial on our channel on how to generally wire different cameras and different configurations of that wiring, we'll have a great video linked down in the description here for you, or a card up above. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to head to the vehicle. We're going to start taking apart the cargo hatch area, start running our wiring. Okay, so we've mounted our camera here, and once we get the plate on, we'll make the adjustment to try to point this towards center. For right now, we just got it temporarily mounted. We ran the cable up inside the bumper, and we'll show you where it comes out up underneath. Okay, here up underneath the bumper, we actually drilled this hole so we could run that wire through, and we split loomed it. Ran it this direction, put a little zip tie on it, and then it goes up and through the floor. Now you saw us drill that hole, then we put in a grommet, a 1/2-inch grommet, and we ran our wire through that grommet so it's nice and loomed and won't chafe or have any issues, and that's where it goes into the floor back in the cargo area. Up above, this is where it comes out. Nice in that fancy grommet. So at this point of time, next thing we need to do is we need to snag a positive and negative signal from our reverse light, but we're going to do it on the driver's side here. So we got to pull the assembly out. Now there's two T20 Torx on this side, and the rest should be held on with clips. So we're going to go ahead and remove those. We have a long extension with that Torx bit to help remove those. This is going to grant us access to the wiring to that reverse line. We're going to use that as a trigger and also to ground our camera. All right, so with this wire now through, we've connected our extension cable. Now remember, this extension cable branches off into the video wire and power and ground for the camera. We've decided with our radio, we're going to power the camera off accessory So we need an extra wire in this length to be a trigger. There's no trigger back behind the radio. This is pre-smart harness, so it's just not available. So what we're going to do, and along with our video wire, is we have an 18 gauge wire. We taped it all the way down here. And essentially, this will run along as we run this wire up forward towards the aftermarket radio. So where these ends go is we pull this back through a little hole here, and with our light removed, we went through this little weather seal. So this connection here is going to provide the trigger for the radio and the ground for the camera, but the power wire for the camera, we're going to go to accessory back behind the radio. We'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. So we'll have to make these connections and tap into this wiring for those connections, and everything else will be ran forward towards the radio. All right, so we need to start making our connections here. Now there's going to be a brown with a green stripe and a black with a white stripe. Black with a white is your ground. Brown with the green stripe is your reverse gear positive wire. And so we're going to connect our trigger into that, which is going to be our purple wire that we're running extra, and our camera ground, which is black, will go into our ground here. Now the way that I've stripped these back without cutting the wire is these wire strippers grab the wire and they strip back the shielding. And then I have this pick tool, push that through the wire there, kind of make a little loop, just like that. Then I'm going to feed my wire through those connections. Now you're probably wondering, well, why didn't I hook this guy up? With this specific camera, there's two ways. You can either hook this one up to your positive wire as well to power the camera, or you can cap it off and hook the other end of this wire to an accessory wire back behind the dash. So it just kind of depends on your install. We aren't going to power this just off the reverse light. We want the camera to be on when the truck is on. So we'll tape this off, leave this back here, and on the other end, where it comes out the RCA, that end is what will connect to accessory power. So at this point in time, we're going to solder these connections. We'll tape everything up and reassemble the light. All right, so this wire, we've started tucking it. And essentially here, we're going to tuck it up underneath this panel. And we're going to use this panel tool to just help us tuck that up and away here. And we're going to run that all the way down along the kick panel towards the front of the vehicle, towards that radio. So we continued running that wire down, just tucking back behind this panel. Made it out to this point. We're just going to continue to tuck. So we continued running our wire along. Then we came up here, and then you can kind of see it there. We just drop this panel down. There's two Phillips screws holding that in, and we're gonna run that across, and we came to this point. Now we need to pop our radio out so we can feed the wire up into the dash and make our connections. All right, so we're here in the car. We need to pop this radio on out temporarily so we can make our connections. We got to connect our video wire to the camera input on the back of the radio. And we have to connect our accessory wire to power the camera off that little pigtail there, and our purple trigger wire to the trigger wire of the radio. So 3 connections. First thing we need to do is we're going to pop in the key here, pull back our gear shifter, and in here it's going to be a Phillips screw. Go ahead and remove that. The rest should be held on with clips. Okay, now we just need it barely out enough where this will give us the space we need. Tap into the reverse gear trigger wire. All right, so with the radio out, we plugged our video output from the camera into the camera input of the radio. Next, this little lead off, remember, we're using this as the accessory or power wire for the camera. What we did there is our radio happens to have a power output and accessory output that can power the camera there. Now, if you didn't have one of these on your radio, you can just tap it into your red wire on your harness right there and just crimp it in if needed. So we're powering that there, and then our reverse gear trigger wire, or that purple wire. So for the purple wire, this is the one that we ran in, and we connected it the purple white wire of the radio, which is the reverse gear trigger wire. Now, it may vary depending on the brand of radio, so kind of keep that in mind here. Always look at the brand of radio to know what the reverse gear trigger wire color is. So we connected that in. Now this was twisted and taped previously, so we went ahead and threw some crimp caps on there so they don't come off and short circuit in the dash. Just a little cleanup here as well. So that's it. At this point, we can get everything reconnected and the radio back in the dash, and we'll do a final test. Okay, so with the radio all back in the dash, we always want to double check to make sure your settings are good to go. So we'll go to our camera settings on this specific radio to make sure our reverse gear is turned on. The power is on because this is going to power our camera. We don't need a front camera or anything like that. And then our trigger is going to be off for the rear camera only. So with that all good to go, just put it in reverse. There we are. There's our image. Actually, it doesn't look too bad. Pull it out of reverse. Perfect. Now this does have the option. This is why we wire the camera to accessory, so we can peek upon the camera when not in reverse. So if you're going down the highway, it's a good, easy way to check what's behind you, especially if you're towing or anything like that with a load behind you. It's nice to have that visibility. Perfect. That's about it for this install. If you have any questions on what we did here, post a comment below. We didn't install this radio, but we do have a single DIN that's quite a few years old at this point of an install. And if you want to still check that one out, we'll link that down in the description here for you. But we will link all the parts for the double DIN kits and such in the description of this video. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to hit the like button if you like what you saw, and don't forget to subscribe. We post great content on the channel all the time, and we'll see you in the next video.